and now whole, both as blind and now seeing. They knew when he left he could not see. When he came back he could. And they asked him, what happened to you? This is our challenge, saints, in the church. Because we go and come and go and come and go and come. And the people who see us see we are exactly the same when we came back as we were when we left. And it doesn't make any difference what kind of testimony that you offer to people if they know that you are exactly the same as you were. You came and went and came and went and came and went. You came to church, came back the same. You came to Bible study, came back the same. Came to revival, came back the same. And you can take out every billboard in the city and nobody in your neighborhood is going to believe your story as long as you are exactly like you always were. We substitute all kinds of programs for actual encounters with the living God. We're substituting all kinds of initiatives. We have all kinds of bright ideas that don't depend on an actual encounter with the man called Jesus. And nobody believes our report because it is verifiably false. We say amazing grace, how sweet the sound, and yet we are still the blind, bigoted, xenophobic people we always were. We say God is love. There's no evidence of it in us. This man, though, comes back to the place where he was. Let me say just an aside here as a pastor. And that's bad. It's bad for us to show up and show up and show up and show up. No, we never change. Can I tell you something that's worse? Let me say, for me as a pastor, can I tell you the thing that's worse? The worst thing is that folks get healed, but they never show back up in the place. They take their blessing. We'll never get to hear their testimony. Never see the great thing God has done. Because they're unwilling to show back up to the people and in the places where they have already been, to share what great things God has done against all odds. I know they're afraid of us. Sometimes they're afraid that we won't believe them. Sometimes they're afraid we'll draw them back. Sometimes they're afraid we will dismiss the thing that God has done. But sometimes there is a form of ingratitude that refuses to go back to the place where you got what you got and show yourself healed. Now, let me finish. So he goes back and he can see. He passes all the eye tests. Shows up at the DMV and he is now eligible to drive. Shows up in the neighborhood. They tell him, man, your eyes are good enough now, you can get your pilot's license. He shows up seeing. And they say, what happened to you? Aren't you, don't we know you? Haven't you been blind all of this time? And then he starts to testify and tell an inconvenient truth. He tells a truth that the already predetermined religious leaders in the community cannot bear to hear. They immediately begin to discredit him. They discredit him theologically. It's not possible that this thing that you are saying happened with the person you saying did it, because he must be a sinner, and these things don't come from God, not on Sabbath day. They give him good theological reasons why God wouldn't do for him what God has already clearly done. It's an inconvenient truth. Then the religious officials who have no power, nobody gets healed in their presence, nobody gets helped in their presence, nobody gets delivered in their presence, nobody feels more hopeful in their presence. They realize they are fixing to lose their jobs to this guy they don't even know where he came from. Who is it who did this? He must be a sinner, because God wouldn't work through somebody like this. The man says, I am not a theologian. What I know is what happened to me. They go to his parents. This your son that you said was blind? Like you as parents have some reason to pretend your child is blind. Is this your son who you said was blind from birth? What happened to him? This is our son. He was blind from birth. We don't know what happened to him. If you want to know what happened, ask the one it happened to. He is of age. Ask him. Now they knew his testimony. The text said they were afraid too. They didn't want to be implicated in God doing things that were inconvenient for people in power. Did you all hear this thing about how Christine Blasey Ford's father won't support her because he doesn't want to be put out of the country club? He plays golf with people in the country club. He's a GOP operative in the local community, and he doesn't want to be associated with his own injured daughter because he doesn't want to be implicated, because he doesn't want the powerful people in his community to hold it against him. He's still got to live there. He wants to be able to play golf. Now you shake your head, but right now, in this city, in our communities, I dare say in this church, there's somebody who is telling a truth that her parents don't want to hear because they are afraid about what powerful people will feel about them if they back their own child. Sit with that for a minute. Our children are afraid to tell us the truth because they know how important our positions are to us. Our children are afraid to tell us the truth. I know this is true because it's true everywhere. It's true in Country Club USA, and it's true on the block. They're afraid to tell us the truth. So they call another hearing. Bring him back in here. I'm almost finished, but I want to show you one more thing. Bring him back in here. We're going to have another hearing. We're going to see, they really are pressing him to see if they can get him to change his story. They're really pressing him. He's already healed, and they think maybe he'll be willing to trust the grace of Jesus and tell a lie rather than running afoul of the people in the community. They bring him back in for another hearing, and in a lot of ways, it seems like a good strategy because lots of times people back down under pressure, not because the story that they are telling is untrue, but because they are unwilling to live with the consequences consequences of standing by their own testimony. People recant all the time because they are afraid of the consequences of standing by their own testimony. And so they bring him back in. But guess what? They made one mistake. You know what their mistake was? I'm finished right here. They instructed him to give glory to God. They instructed him against their own intentions to give glory to God. And the only way he could give glory to God is by telling the truth. The only way he could give glory to God is by saying, this is my story. This is my story. I was blind and now I see. This is my story. I was broken and then I encountered the man named Jesus. You may not like him, but that is who God used. This is my way of giving glory to God. Not by offering you a tale that you find palatable, but by telling what God has done for me in detail. This is how God did it. This is where God did it. This is who God used. And so now I'm living my life as a healed person, giving glory to God by telling you the story about how he spat on the ground and touched my eyes and sent me to the pool of Siloam, and I came up seeing. I don't know where he came from. I don't know whether he is the prophet or not. What I do know is I give glory to God. I was blind. But now I see.